Hi YouTube subscribers. Okay, so I was supposed to post a video yesterday, but we got so caught up in getting my grandmother home from the hospital. So she's finally home, thank God. But she's doing a lot better. We're trying to get her up and moving around. But so today is supposed to be year one of being a mom. So where we left off is I gave birth in the hospital. My mom, she delivered my son. All right, so we're gonna jump ahead to him being 3 months old. So when he was 3 months, we decided on getting married, Brian and I. So we got married, and of course, I thought things would be different, even though the reason why we got married is because of the fact that I was supposed to go back into the military and he wanted the military benefits. But unfortunately, due to the weight gain of the baby and due to my health condition, I was unable to go back into the military. But that was no hurt here, even though I really wanted to go back in, but I rather would have been home with my son. So, of course, when he found out that I could not go back into the military, abuse got worse. It turned into more physical than emotional. But I prayed and I prayed, and we fought and we fought, and I cried and I cried. And so, by the time Jacoby was 9 months, I made the conscious decision to leave Brian. So I left him and I moved back home with my parents. Brian had told social services that I was a druggie and I was a drunk. But when they came to run tests and everything, everything came out negative, and where I lived was in great condition, even though he told them that, it was a crap hole. Everything was in great condition. I had transportation and I was holding down 2 jobs. My grandma took my son while I worked those 2 jobs, and, life started to get better. And then I started back seeing my husband. And as soon as I started seeing him, that was God's way of saying, what the steps that happened next were God's way of saying, why would you do that? Because God took me out of that situation to live a happy life. But I stepped right back into that situation. I gave up a great guy that I was seeing. I was in the military. He was sweet. He was kind. He took my son in as his own. But, I went ahead and I left. And I went back to him. When I went back to him, he put sugar in my motor, which blew the motor, so I could not get back home to my family. And then on top of that, I lost both my jobs. I lost my apartment and everything. And we got into another fight. And he threw me and the baby out on the streets. I called the cops and they transported me back home, where I decided I would never go back. But then I wound up back talking to him. And I gotten real sick, very sick, and I wound up in the hospital, and they told me that I had to get a hysterectomy in order to live. So I talked it over with my husband because we were still married. It was his decision and my mother's decision. So he said, if we were going to be a family again. You know, I loved him. He was my husband. He said that if we be a family again, that, you know, he didn't want any more kids anyway. Get the hysterectomy. So I did. And then I wound up with a staph infection. And I was stuck in the hospital for 6.5 months. And he decided that on my deathbed that he no longer wanted to be a family. Said he was just saying that because he didn't want any more kids with me. Nor did he want me to have kids from anyone else. So, of course, yes, I got the hysterectomy. I was dying. And I turned to God once again, and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed to heal me, to go home to my son. And I was healed and I went home. But I couldn't see my son for another 6 months because they were at risk of him bringing more infection. So he stayed with my grandmother for another 6 months. So for a year, I could not see my child. And so, of course, that was a difficult year. And that's pretty much it. So tomorrow will be year number 2. All right. God bless you guys. Continue to strive and don't forget to subscribe.